Good afternoon, everyone. I thought I would do a little transmission of some insights around this worldwide panic around this virus that's everyone's flipping out about. And so I thought I'd really talk about it from the biggest possible perspective to give you some idea of how I see this. Okay, so there's a little link in the description there that I encourage you to click. It's a link to an image that I put up related to the 5 phases of the life force, and so this is a great model. This is a great alchemical model to understand what's happening with our immune system and especially with the lungs, right? So because if you notice, anytime we get flu or any type of infection, it's the lungs that are the first line of defense. In Chinese medicine, we say the lungs control what's called the Wei Qi, the protective energy of the body. Okay, and it's no accident that the first thing we do when we leave the formless realms as a soul and when we come into the body, the first thing that we have to do is breathe, right? And if we die a natural death, with kidney failure, basically, that's the last thing that we'll do as well, is we will make an exhale and we will go back to the formless. Yes. So on the image that I put there, you can see in that model that the lungs are between the formless and the form, between the fire, which is related to our endocrine system, and our connection to, our spirit, our connection to that which is formless. And then at the bottom is the most yin organ in our body, which is the kidneys, which is related to our reproductive system and is really related to life itself, So our physical bodies are here because of our ancestors. So the water element is very much related to our ancestors and to the flow of life from them to us, and to us. And the kidneys are very much connected in with the actual physical vitality of the body. Now, the interesting thing is, right, that, all of this fear that's around, the fear of death, it's the fear of catching something and dying, right? That's a kidney energy, right? And the metal energy, what is that about? It's between heaven and earth. It's between the formless and the form. So what is that? What does that mean exactly? So here's my take on it. And this is based just on my own studies and on my own experience of that energy within myself, right? So everyone talks about a strong immune system, right? Getting a strong immune system, but you have to understand where that intention is coming from. So if your intention is coming from a place of like, I'm separate to the rest of life and I need to strengthen myself because I don't want life to come in and attack me, that attitude is doomed to failure, right? Okay, so the fire represents the oneness of all of us, the oneness of life, the interconnectedness of all of us. Yes, can you see that? That the fire represents the interconnectedness of all of us. What happens is when we come into a physical body, when our soul starts to come in here, is we individualize. So you could say that the metal, the very aspect of breathing, is individualizing. Excuse me. You see, the lungs are coming out and talking about it. So that metal aspect in 5-phase theory is the individualizing aspect of the whole. In other words, each of us as souls, we come in here and we come into individual bodies. And this is the big challenge of life, right? It's like, oh my God, I've got to protect myself. I've got to protect myself against life. I've got to build up my resources. I've got to become an individual. I've got to become a strong individual. Now, there's some aspects of truth to that, okay? So some of you know my favorite quote on love, right? Which is, love is the ability to merge with anything or anyone without losing your center. Okay, so our lungs give us a sense of our own individuality, but they don't give us the sense of that individuality to the exclusion of our connection with the whole. So I want you to think of Mother Earth's lungs, her atmosphere. Start thinking about Mother Earth's lungs, and because Mother Earth breathes, each of us can breathe. Each of us has that connection. Now, the interesting thing about viruses and infections and all of these things, if you look at it from the Taoist perspective, what it's reminding us is that we're interconnected. We are interconnected to the whole, to the whole. So the big insight that I have for all of you is to really look at your own belief structures. Like, how deeply do you take that on? You know, how deeply inside yourself do you take on this sense that I'm a separate individual and I can be, you know, I can be swept away by nature. I can be swept away by life. You know, that life can attack me, you know, that I'm not safe, right? This is the kidney energy. I'm not safe, right? So it takes a lot of courage. This is the element of the metal, you know, it takes courage to see that you are connected to the whole. It takes courage to see that and to act on that as a deep value inside of yourself. Okay, so the metal energy inside of us, which is related to the lungs, it's about individualization, but it's also about surrender. It's about surrendering to this greater collective whole. And when we surrender to that, when we sort of let our lungs open up to the greater chi flow of life, we realize, oh my God, you know, yes, I'm an individual, but I'm also connected to this whole. You know, that's what air is, right? Air is this, I mean, the air that we're breathing now has been breathed by, you know, all of our ancestors, all the way back to the first human being. That air recycles, continually recycles. It's not like the air disappears, it recycles. So you can imagine the breath we're breathing now was maybe breathed by Julius Caesar. How connected is that to all of us? So if you want to really, at a very deep level, strengthen your immune system, you have to really dive into this sense that you know, that you feel separate, that you feel almost like a victim of life. You know, this is what these viruses are about. It's reminding the collective that we are not a victim of these things. We're not a victim of those, you know. For some of us, maybe it's time for us to leave. That's the flow of life. It may be our time to leave. Think about that. Do you have any control over that? No. No. You could be in the healthiest body in the world, right? And you could just step across the street and it's your time to leave. I personally deeply, even though I'm just putting that out there, I personally believe that the more you embrace this world view, this interconnectedness of all of us, that there's no way that life is going to, you know, take you out of the planet, right? Because you're part of that collective awakening that's saying, hey, it's, you know, I want my children to know they're interconnected. This is what Mother Earth's basically saying. Her vibration is just like rising up in each one of us and saying, hey, you're all interconnected. You can't do this new way of being in the world on your own. You know, it's impossible. And at the same time, we have to strengthen our own individuality. But that strengthening is not a strengthening based out of fear or based out of like the need to separate yourself from others and from other people, you know? So this really, it's very clear to me what these viruses are about. It's related to the immune system, related to the lungs specifically. You know, this sense of being a separate individual and being a victim of, you know, the external world. You know, we're being woken up to this, you know, and you can see everyone like looking at the news, looking at the government or looking at the doctors to save them, you know, and this is not what it's about. I mean, it's a beautiful, loving act that someone wants to try and save us, you know, but we have some very strange ideas what that might mean, you know, what saving means, what rescuing means, you know. So my deep sense with this virus is that if you have any sort of belief deep inside you that you're somehow separate to the whole, then this virus is going to come in and dissolve those beliefs, you know, or maybe not. Maybe, you know, and have you ever noticed that when you get sick, it's incredibly humbling? Have you ever noticed that? Which is a virtue of the lung energy. Is this? It's called unrighteousness. Is the word, which means that you realize you're in the greater flow of the whole. That's basically what righteousness means. It means that you surrender to this great chi flow of life. That's what the metal energy is all about. It's surrendering. So whenever I get sick, it's an incredibly humbling experience for me, and I know it's working on these deep beliefs inside of me that somehow I'm separate to the rest of life, because we're not. Does anyone have any questions about this? Please feel free to post, because I find when people ask questions, it gets easier to bring clarity to this situation. So anytime you feel fear about this, that's the next element. If you see the metal element moves into the water, if fear starts to come up around this, it means you need to step back a little bit, go into the metal element and see what sort of, limiting beliefs you have in there, what type of deep rooted beliefs you have that you can be a victim of something outside of yourself. This is basically what that metal element, the metal element is all about integrity and courage, our respiratory system, this is the other thing that I want to talk about, which is very interesting, is if we look at the psychology of the metal element. So the psychology of the metal element is very much related to this idea of being significant. This idea that our significance is based on the outside. It's like you can see a craziness with that right now in the collective. Everyone wants to be a coach, or everyone wants to be on Facebook Live, everyone wants to be an expert, and you have to really look, like, where is that coming from? Is that coming from a place of truly wanting to serve the whole, or is it coming from a deep sense of not feeling significant because of your connection to your soul or connection to the whole? So I'll be the first one to admit that has been a theme in my life. I've had a metal constitution for a long time until I became more conscious of it. And now, it's, I can honestly say, like, there's nothing to prove. We have nothing to prove. We're already alive. We already have the gift of life inside of us, which any of you who's ever been through a really serious illness or the possibility of death realizes the greatness of that gift, right? And so what do? What does the metal energy inside of us do? We start to say, oh, I'm not enough as I am. I'm not significant enough. I'm not significant enough. I'm not significant enough. There's something missing inside of me, which is a lie. It's a lie. And so that metal energy, it tends to personalize everything that happens in your life. And that's what you see in the world today, is this deep personalization. Oh my God, I can be killed. I can, here in Romania, we just heard that people are raiding the supermarkets and getting loads of food, and and it's, again, the fear. It's incredible. So I, for one, I know that this virus, or this is just the beginning. I think we're going to see more and more wake-up calls about bringing the interconnectedness of us together. So I hope this has been helpful. It feels really, really in alignment with something that needs to wake up in all of us. And I hope you will share this with your friends. Let people know about this video, because I think it's a very important thing to understand, so that we can really reduce the fear in the collective, and start to see what this is really about. Okay, does anyone have any questions? Once you understand 5-phase theory, Taoist 5-phase theory, then you can really start to understand life in a much deeper way. This is one of the reasons I teach it, because it helps you understand life within yourself. You understand, where these different energies and what they represent psychologically, physically, from the system-wise of the body. You know, so the lungs are related to the respiratory system, yeah, and it has a companion organ, the large intestine. And it's all about letting go into the greater chi field. So let me give you a really, it might seem a very simple example about that, but look, the beginning of this year, just before Christmas, I decided to quit coffee, you know. And honestly, in my mind, I was like, you know, I love coffee. I love the taste of coffee. I was never someone who wanted coffee just for the buzz. I have a lot of energy, you know, from my practice. But I love the taste, you know. But in my mind, I had this belief, right? I had this belief that there's no way I would find another drink as good as coffee that made me feel as good as it. But I was in this place of like, you know, I don't want to be a victim of this taste to coffee. So I'm just going to surrender it. This is a metal quality. I just want to give it up. And plus, I knew that it wasn't so great for my nervous system and for my kidneys. So, you know, I just decided to let it go. And then interestingly enough, just into my consciousness, a friend in America told me about this incredible coffee substitute called Teochino. And I've been drinking that. And the great thing about it is it tastes just like coffee. I can have it 3 times a day and it doesn't affect my nervous system. It's just fantastic. And that is a metal quality. It's this surrendering, not seeing the personal. Like my personality was like, oh my God, I'll never find coffee as good as, I'll never find a drink as good as coffee. And now I'm drinking this in the morning. I said to my partner, my beloved, I said, oh my God, it's so obvious that when we let go, when we surrender of what we think we need at the personal level, something beautiful opens up, you know? And this is the metal quality. It's having that courage to let go of things that we think at the personality level we need. Does that make sense to everyone? You see the fire element up there as being the flow of the whole, as being this formless round of perfection, of love, and it's flowing down through our lungs, right? And so as we open our lungs, it's like we allow that formless energy in, and we take on this more interpersonal interconnectedness with life. And so our lungs become this, we're breathing the earth's chi, you know, and we're surrendering our personal view of life to this greater collective. So you can really tune into that in the lungs. You know, one of the things I love to do is I pretend I'm the earth and I'm breathing the atmosphere of the earth. I feel like my lungs are Mother Earth's lungs, and I'm surrendering anything inside my lungs, any sort of personal sadness or personal, you know, you see the lungs, they carry this sense of loss, you know, of grief. At the ancestral level, we're carrying the grief in our lungs of the collective, you know, of this idea of death, you know, and of losing things, you know. And one of the reasons I share and teach inner alchemy is because part of the inner alchemy training is to lose the fear of death, is to lose that. Remember that the water energy is our physicality, our form. So the more you surrender, the more you open up to this interconnectedness, the less fear of death, the less fear of something outside of you hurting you, you know. But it can't be conceptual. It cannot be conceptual. It has to be felt inside of you. Again, this is why I teach inner alchemy, soul cultivation, so that you can start to make the soul conscious, you know. You know, we want to take the soul from conceptual to experiential, you know. And that is a journey, you know. That's the journey of each one of us lives. What about the issue of controlling life? People don't want to die, therefore they're angry at the coronavirus, angry at life, death itself. They think that they can control who will survive. Exactly. This is this sense, this is spot on, Lena, yeah. It's this deep sense that, you know, we're a victim of life, you know, that we're unsafe here on this planet, you know, that we're unsafe, you know. And, you know, for example, when you were a baby, did you have those thoughts? Did you have those beliefs? You didn't know that. You had no sense of, of your mortality, right? And that's coming in from your soul. Your soul can never be destroyed, can never be killed. It's immortal, it's indestructible. That's why the Taoists call it true earth. They call the soul true earth. Because even this planet, this physical body can be destroyed. But our soul, our immortal spirit, can never be, right? That's why the Taoists call it true earth. Yeah. Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, Amy, yeah, not trusting life, right? Exactly, exactly. It's very deep, this belief. It's incredibly deep, this. I've had to do a lot of digging down into my own beliefs around this, some deep, deep digging down. This year has been an incredibly transforming year for me since the beginning of this year. Just incredible releases of old beliefs and old thought structures around life. So yeah, wonderful you all listening, and yeah, it's a really interesting time we're living in, and I see this happening more and more over the next few years, is that you're going to be seeing more and more of these sort of collective phenomenon that affect all of us, and we will have no choice but to wake up to the fact that we're all interconnected, and it's not just lip speaking, it's not just speaking it, it's actually feeling that, it's actually knowing that in the cells of your body, that we are all interconnected, so I, for one, am very excited about what's happening. I have zero fear. I'm not afraid. It's just not there, because I know this is from the whole, for the whole. Yeah. I love you all. I really appreciate that you will share this video, please, far and wide. I think it's an important discussion, to have. And so those of you that know Wu Qigong, I deeply encourage you to practice it on a regular basis and commit to, make a commitment to open up to the interconnectedness you have with life. And that there's one more important point. Very, very important point. The lungs give us a sense of our value, a sense of our self-esteem, I would say, right? So it's like I said, when we're born, we're given this great gift of life, and we embody that through our breath. The first thing we do when we come into physical form is like we take that breath, I'm in life, I've been given this gift of life. Yeah, and that is the most precious gift that we can receive. And trust me, I've had my times of thinking like, wow, life doesn't serve me. Life is not serving this individual. I've had that story many times in my life, and I'm finally starting to get the lesson around that, that it's not about me. It's not about Andy the individual, or Andy the personal, or Andrew the personal. It's about this intelligence that's built into life. And, it's always bringing us exactly what we need. And I can really say that with deep conviction, So, yeah. 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 I have, Amy, I have big, big plans for Wu Qigong. We'll see if the collective supports it, but I'm on a mission with it. And, there's a new website now. A friend of mine in London was just talking about me coming to London and teaching there. And, I'm planning a big event in London. I'm reintroducing Wu Qigong into the collective there. So, yeah. Any other questions? Tracy, hi. Say hi to Irina. Yeah, Tracy, sure. She's right here. Nice to see you. How do we strengthen the lungs? Okay. Okay, Daniel. So, like, it's not enough just to work at the physical level. I mean, of course, we can improve our breathing and all this, but ultimately it comes down to this deep, we have to look at our beliefs. We have to look at our sense of whether we feel we're separate to the rest of life. That is the number one way to strengthen the lungs, is to really look at this belief that somehow or other, you know, we're not valuable as we are. As we are. That's the way to strengthen the lungs, is to feel your value, right? But not to personalize that value. That's the paradox of it. You feel your value immensely, it's precious, but you don't personalize it. So again, I've used this analogy before, this metaphor before. When we breathe, right? When we breathe in air, we realize it's precious, right? But we don't personalize it. We don't go, oh my God, I don't have enough air for myself, right? So it's the same with our personality, our sense of our individuality. We have to realize it's incredibly precious because it's unique. There's no one quite like us on the planet. We all have a unique destiny. But we don't have to obsess about it. We don't have to like feel like, oh, I can't get enough for me, you know. Do you follow me there? It's a deep unconscious belief that we all have, that we're somehow separate to the rest of life, and that we don't have value, you know. We don't have value. So, you know, one of the things that I unwound inside of myself, which was a deep core belief for me, was that somehow life supports other people more than me. You know, a lot of you might want to look into that. You know, it's a deep belief we have that somehow some people are more blessed by life than we are. And this is a lie. You know, this is a lie we tell ourselves. And I encourage all of you to really look at that, look deep at that, because it really holds a lot of false, what I call stuck yin and yang qi, false yang, false yin qi in the lungs and in the large intestine. This idea that other people are more blessed by life than we are, you know, and it's just not true. Life knows exactly what it's doing. It's giving everyone exactly what they need, second by second, moment by moment. That is without a doubt within me. But for a long time, I had the other belief, you know. And talking about control, where that will be held mostly is in the jaw area, you know, in the jaw. This sense that we have to control life, you know, and not let more air in. So when I released those beliefs, my jaw started to open up, you know. My jaw started to open, so more air could come down. You know? And there's other reasons as well. This is related to the liver energy, which is also related to control. Yeah. Yeah, so some great questions here. How do we strengthen the lungs? Great. Thank you, Andrew. Good morning. Yes, very true what you are saying. Oh. Well, I'm not really attached to whether it's true or not. It's just my deep sense of life, you know. You can take it or not take it. This is just my deep experience of what that metal energy is all about, you know. So it's a very important aspect of the 5 phases, as all of them are. You know, they're all different phases of the life force. See those 5 phases as the way pure consciousness, which has no form, creates this formed world. This is why I teach 5 element theory. This is why I teach Taoist inner alchemy, because you can understand this physical dimension in a much deeper way, you know. So I encourage all of you to do your best to study with me. I'm planning some online courses. I'm planning especially like a 6-month or a year online course on soul cultivation, on really bringing the soul more into the forefront. I decided I want to start doing this online, you know, so I can reach more people. So there'll be I will be making, you know, announcements about that. I'm still deciding what length it should be, you know, maybe 6 months, maybe a year, but it needs that sort of commitment for the soul to come more into this dimension. So the number one issue, remember, the number one issue on our planet that humanity is facing is this disconnect between the soul and the personality, which again is the lung is the intermediate for that. So that's the number one issue on the planet, this disconnection between the soul and the personality. Most people are focusing way too much on the personality. And yes, it's precious, right? but we shouldn't be obsessing over it, right? We should be more connecting in with our gratitude that, wow, we're alive, we have this gift of life inside of us, So yeah, so that's my personal mission, is to awaken people to soul consciousness, to make it a reality, Yeah. Okay. So I think I will finish there. I've been chatting quite a bit, and Sunday is a nice time to chat. See you all. Lots of love, everyone. Thanks for listening.